But the left never gives it a rest. They never give it a rest. And their grotesque use of horrific tragedies to advance their political agenda, to wrap their political agenda in these tragedies, promoted by a free media, they don't even have to pay for commercials, cannot go unchallenged. They had the whole weekend, much of today. I addressed it on Friday. I'm addressing it again today. Here are some facts. Now, I know to those who don't deal in reason, but deal in emotions, this won't matter, but to maybe some it will. From National Review Online, back in December 17 today, 2012, Clayton Kramer, he says in part, in 1999, the National Institute of Justice, that's part of the Justice Department, published a study by criminologists Jeffrey Roth and Christopher Copper, Impacts of the 1994 Assault Weapons Ban, 1994 to 96. It examined the effects of the federal assault weapons ban in its first 2 years of operation and found no statistically significant reduction in murder rates. Quote, the ban did not produce declines in the average number of victims per incident of gun murder or gun murder victims with multiple weapons. The study also was unable to find any clear evidence that it reduced murders of police officers. The reason's simple. So-called assault weapons were never commonly used for murders before the ban, and more conventionally appearing weapons were effective substitutes for criminal misuse, as in the case in Connecticut. John Fund has a great piece, also National Review Online. He points out mass shootings are no more common than they have been in past decades, despite the impression given by the media, and of course, despite what the president said and Schumer said and Feinstein said. In fact, the high point for mass killings in the U.S. was 1929, according to criminologist Grant Dew of the Minnesota Department of Corrections. Incidents of mass murder in the U.S. declined from 42 in the 90s to 26 in the first decade of this century. The chances of being killed in a mass shooting are about what they are for being struck by lightning. Now, I do not say this to dismiss mass murder. Absolutely not. I say this so that you protect your liberty and your rights. It's the Bill of Rights against demagogues in Washington, D.C. Until the Newtown horror, writes Fund, the 3 worst K-12 school shootings ever to take place took place in Britain and Germany. Almost all the public policy discussion about Newtown is focused on a debate over the need for more gun control. In reality, gun control in a country that already has 200 million privately owned firearms is likely to do little to keep weapons out of the hands of criminals. We'd be better off debating 2 taboo subjects: the laws that make it difficult to control people with mental illness and the growing body of evidence that gun-free zones, which ban the carrying of firearms by law-abiding individuals, don't work. In fact, economist John Lott, John's a friend of mine, we had him on Friday, and William Landis conducted a groundbreaking study in 1999 and found that a common theme of mass shootings is that they occur in places where guns are banned and killers know everyone will be unarmed, such as shopping malls and schools. Disarming law-abiding citizens leaves them as sitting ducks, Lott told Fund. A couple hundred people were in the Cinemark Theater when the killer arrived. There's an extremely high probability that one or more of them would have had a legal concealed handgun if they had not been barred from carrying them. And Lott offers a final damning statistics. Quote, with just one single exception, the attack on Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords in Tucson in 2011, every public shooting since at least 1950 in the U.S., in which more than 3 people have been killed, has taken place where citizens are not allowed to carry guns. So there's no evidence that private holders of concealed carry permits, which are either easy to obtain or not even required in more than 40 states, are any more irresponsible with firearms than the police themselves. According to a 2005-2007 study by researchers at the University of Wisconsin and Bowling Green State University, police nationwide were convicted of firearms violations at least, it's very small, 0.002% annual rate. It's about the same as citizens with carry permits. But like everything else, whether it's Obamacare or global warming, and in this instance, the facts don't seem to matter. And the facts on the ground don't seem to matter. What took place in Newtown? Oh, we're going to have an assault weapons ban. Really? Well, since he didn't use assault weapons, what are you banning exactly? And one other thing. What's an assault weapon? A butcher knife? What's an assault weapon, Mr. Producer? A baseball bat? A 36-ouncer? See, we have laws against assault in this country, too. Oh, yes, we do. Assault, battery, all kinds of criminal statutes, criminal ordinances. Doesn't matter what you use. If you assault somebody, you use your bare hand. Sometimes you can just threaten a battery, and it's considered an assault. Assault weapons. The left changes the language. It demonizes. Hey, who needs assault weapons anyway? Are we in the military? And which raises another point. Timothy Carney at the Washington Examiner. A lot of talk about this weapon, the AR-15. The New York Slimes talked about the AR-15 in an editorial promoting the banning of guns. He says AR-15s that are legal to buy do not have the 3-shot burst that the military's current M16s have. They also don't have the automatic fire option that most people associate with the M16. In other words, you got to press the trigger, pull the trigger every time. And he said, this word semi-automatic mostly means not automatic. You pull the trigger on a semi-automatic gun like an AR-15 and one bullet comes out at a time. You pull it again, another bullet comes out. Unlike a single shotgun, you don't need to cock it or load it after each shot. That's the one reason they call it semi-automatic. You don't need to keep loading it. An assault weapon? We don't even know what that means. And he points out Congress attempted to define it, and they couldn't. It was laughable. You just have to keep one thing in mind with the left, the radical left, the media, this president, people like Schumer and Feinstein and other leftists and so forth. They don't tell the truth. It's a huge problem. And they push their agenda no matter what. Schumer has a problem with the entire Bill of Rights. He was also the one that was attacking, remember, free speech in the First Amendment? Remember that, Mr. Producer? The Citizens United case? Well, what's all the... Only people who can spend money on advertising are people I say. Well, that's not in the Constitution. Well, then we got to change the First Amendment. I'm starting to think, a little bit of tongue-in-cheek here. My chair's broken, by the way. I'm starting to think, well, maybe we ought to play this game. If the Second Amendment doesn't mean what it says, then why does freedom of the press under the First Amendment mean what it says? I mean, maybe it should mean something else, right? Maybe we could do this. You and the Washington Post, you can actually print news but not editorials. Why? Well, because we know none of the amendments are pure. The framers wouldn't have wanted it that way. I mean, you people, you can own guns, but only certain guns. Okay, fine. You can express your speech in the media, but only in certain ways, you know. Why? Why not? Is there something special about the First versus the Second Amendments? I thought the entire Bill of Rights, I thought all those amendments were sacrosanct. But if they're not, then in fact the president can use all the power he has at his fingertips, as he said the other day, to limit free speech, right? Or any other part of the Bill of Rights. See, they read the 10th Amendment out of existence. They read the 9th Amendment out of existence. They're particularly interested in due process rights, but only when it comes to terrorists and mass murders. Oh, yes. The takings clause in the Bill of Rights, they don't believe in that either. They take whatever they want. They call it regulation, health, safety. Goodbye, farm. Goodbye, creek. Goodbye, whatever. So the Bill of Rights are up for grabs. So how come that part of the Bill of Rights that affects the media, how come that's not up for grabs? Just asking. I know the answer. Don't worry. So do you. We're in a post-constitutional period, and they adhere to what they want to adhere to, and they ignore whatever they want to ignore.